If one day you are checking your blood sugar after breakfast, expecting maybe 140, 150, the meter reads 218 again, despite taking your medication perfectly. Despite eating the same oatmeal you have had for months, your doctor shrugs and says, well, that is just diabetes. But here is the thing. What if I told you that meter reading has almost nothing to do with your willpower, your diet, or even your medication? A 23 study from Tufts University tracked over 11,000 adults with type 2 diabetes for 8 years. What they discovered shocked the research team so much, and they ran the analysis 3 times. 76% of participants with stubborn blood sugar had one thing in common: 3 specific vitamin deficiencies that were silently sabotaging every effort they made. And the most frustrating part? Standard blood tests rarely check for these deficiencies. Millions of diabetics are fighting an invisible battle, and they do not even know they are losing. Now, I have been researching diabetes management for over 15 years. And honestly, this discovery changed how I think about blood sugar control entirely. Because these are not exotic supplements. They are not expensive treatments available at any pharmacy that work through mechanisms your doctor probably never learned about in medical school. In this video, I am going to break down all 3. Vitamin number 2 contains a compound that reduces nerve damage progression by 50%. Researchers at Johns Hopkins literally said that should be impossible. And vitamin number 1? The Copenhagen study found it lowered A1C by 0.5 percentage point in just 12 weeks. That is the kind of change that usually requires adding another medication. Before we dive in, drop a comment with your current A1C level if you know it. I read every single comment, and it helps me understand who I am actually helping. And quick note, everything I share today comes from published, peer-reviewed research. But please, talk to your healthcare provider before making changes. Your situation is unique. All right, let us start with vitamin number 3. Vitamin number 3 is cholecalciferol, which you probably know as vitamin D3. And look, I know what you are thinking. Vitamin D? That is the sunshine vitamin. Everyone talks about it. But here is what nobody tells diabetics specifically. Your body burns through vitamin D at nearly double the rate of someone without diabetes. High blood sugar literally depletes it. So while the general population might be fine with casual sun exposure, diabetics are running a deficit they do not even realize exists. A 2022 meta-analysis published in JAMA Internal Medicine analyzed 37 randomized controlled trials. We are talking over 50,000 participants across 14 countries. People with vitamin D levels below 30 nanograms per milliliter faced a 7% higher risk. But here is the part that really caught my attention. Among people who already had diabetes, optimizing vitamin D status reduced A1C by an average of 0.4. That is the difference between being told, add another pill, and being told, keep doing what you are doing. Let me tell you about Dorothy Patterson, a 68-year-old retired librarian from Portland, Maine. Dorothy came to our practice with an A1C of 8.2, despite taking metformin for 6 years. She was exhausted all the time. Her legs ached constantly. She had fallen twice in the past year, which terrified her daughter. We tested her vitamin D level. It came back at 14 nanograms per milliliter, severely deficient. Her doctor had never checked. We started her on 4,000 international units of D3 daily with breakfast. She was skeptical. She actually said to me, I have been taking pills for years and nothing changes. Within 3 weeks, Dorothy noticed her energy improving. Not dramatically, but noticeably. After 8 weeks, her fasting glucose dropped from 162 to 138. After 12 weeks, her A1C came back at 7.4. down from 8.2. She called me crying. She said, "I thought this was just what getting old with diabetes felt like." Here is what is happening at the cellular level. Vitamin D works like a master key in your pancreas. It binds to receptors on your beta cells, the cells that produce insulin, and literally turns on the genes responsible for insulin production. When D3 levels are optimal, insulin output increases by up to 60%. But it gets better. D3 also reduces insulin resistance by 25 to 35%. Think of it this way. If your cells are houses, insulin is the delivery driver bringing glucose packages. When you are vitamin D deficient, those houses have rusty locks. The driver keeps knocking but cannot get in. Vitamin D is like WD-40 for those locks. Suddenly, glucose enters smoothly instead of piling up in your bloodstream. For food sources, fatty fish like salmon provides about 600 to 1,000 international units per serving. Mackerel, sardines, and egg yolks help too. But honestly, most diabetics need supplementation to reach optimal levels. The therapeutic dose ranges from 2,000 to 4,000 international units daily. Take it with your fattiest meal because it is fat-soluble. And get your levels tested. You are aiming for 40 to 6 nanograms per milliliter. One important caution: do not exceed 10,000 international units daily long-term. Too much vitamin D can cause calcium buildup, leading to kidney problems. More is not always better. Now, vitamin D is powerful. But wait until you hear about vitamin number 2. This one targets something vitamin D cannot touch: the nerve damage that keeps diabetics up at night with burning feet and tingling hands. The Steno Diabetes Center in Denmark called their findings unprecedented. Vitamin number 2 is benfotiamine. And I need to be honest with you. Until about 5 years ago, I barely knew this compound existed. Most doctors still do not. But the research on this is absolutely compelling. Benfotiamine is a fat-soluble form of vitamin B1. Regular B1, thiamine, dissolves in water. Your body absorbs maybe 10 to 15% of it. Benfotiamine, it dissolves in fat, penetrating your cells 5 times more effectively. Here is why this matters for diabetes specifically. High blood sugar creates toxic byproducts. Think of AGEs like rust forming inside your blood vessels, nerves, and organs. This rust accelerates every complication of diabetes: nerve damage, kidney problems, retinopathy, heart disease, all of it. Benfotiamine blocks 4 major pathways that create these toxic compounds. A 21 randomized controlled trial from the Steno Diabetes Center followed 1,200 participants with diabetic neuropathy over 18 months. The benfotiamine group experienced a 50% reduction in nerve damage progression compared to placebo. The lead researcher, Dr. Henrik Vestergaard, said he had never seen results this dramatic from a vitamin. Let me share what happened with Richard Okonkwo, a 74-year-old retired postal worker from Chicago. Richard had been living with type 2 diabetes for 19 years. For the last 8 years, he suffered from severe neuropathy, burning pain in his feet that started around dinner time and kept him awake until 2 or 3 in the morning. He had tried gabapentin. It made him dizzy. He tried duloxetine. He told me he was ready to just accept this as his life. We started him on 300 milligrams of benfotiamine twice daily. I told him honestly, "Richard, I cannot promise this will work, but the research suggests it is worth trying." The first week, nothing changed. The second week, still nothing. Richard called me frustrated. He wanted to quit. I asked him to give it 1 more week. On day 23, he called me at 7 in the morning. His exact words were, "I slept through the night. First time in 4 years." By week 12, his pain scores dropped from 8 out of 10 to 3 out of 10. His nerve conduction studies showed measurable improvement. His neurologist was stunned. Now, Richard's story is not universal. Some people respond faster, some slower, and honestly, some do not respond at all. But for those who do, the relief can be life-changing. Here is the mechanism. Benfotiamine activates an enzyme called transcatolase that shunts excess glucose away from those damaging pathways. Instead of glucose turning into toxic AGEs, it gets redirected into harmless byproducts. It is like having a traffic cop redirecting dangerous trucks away from a crowded school zone. Beyond nerve protection, benfotiamine reduces A1C by 0.3 to 0.5%. It improves kidney function markers by 25 to 30%. It protects retinal blood vessels from glucose damage. You cannot get therapeutic amounts from food. Benfotiamine is synthetic, but foods rich in regular thiamine, like sunflower seeds, black beans, and pork, support your overall B1 status. For supplementation, the therapeutic dose is 300 to 600 milligrams daily, split into 2 doses with meals. Start with 300 milligrams daily and increase after 2 weeks if tolerated. Side effects are rare. Occasional stomach upset in maybe 2% of users. Take it with food and you should be fine. People on certain chemotherapy drugs should check with their oncologist first. Vitamin D3 supports your pancreas and insulin sensitivity. Benfotiamine protects your nerves and blocks glucose toxicity. But vitamin number 1? This is the one that ties everything together. It does something neither of those can do. And the research from Rotterdam changed how cardiologists think about diabetic heart disease. Vitamin number 1 is vitamin K2, specifically the MK7 form. And before I explain why this tops the list, most people know vitamin K helps with blood clotting. That is K1. Vitamin K2 is completely different. It acts like a traffic director for calcium in your body. Without K2, calcium goes wherever it wants. Into your arteries, causing hardening. Into your heart valves, causing stiffness. Into your kidneys, causing stones. With K2, calcium goes where it belongs. Into your bones and teeth. Now here is why this matters so much for diabetes. High blood sugar accelerates arterial calcification. Diabetics are 2 to 4 times more likely to die from heart disease than non-diabetics. And arterial calcification is a major reason why. The Rotterdam Heart Study followed over 4,700 adults over 10 years. They found that people in the highest third of vitamin K2 intake had a 52% reduction. But wait, it gets more interesting for diabetics specifically. A 2023 study from the University of Copenhagen tracked over 8,000 adults with type 2 diabetes. They discovered something remarkable. K2 activates a protein called osteocalcin. When osteocalcin is activated, it does not just build bones. It signals your pancreas to produce more insulin. The Copenhagen researchers found that optimizing K2 status reduced A1C by 0.35, insulin sensitivity improved by 20 to 28%. Post-meal glucose spikes dropped by 8 to 28 milligrams per deciliter. Let me tell you about Margaret Chen, a 65-year-old accountant from San Francisco. Margaret had type 2 diabetes for 11 years. She also had a coronary calcium score of 412. Her cardiologist was seriously concerned. He was recommending aggressive statin therapy and possibly a procedure. Margaret came to us for a second opinion. We tested her K2 levels. Severely deficient. Her D3 was low too, which compounds the problem because D3 increases calabsorption. Without K2 deposit, we started her on 180 micrograms of MK7 daily, along with optimizing her D3. She was nervous about the timeline. Her cardiologist had made it sound urgent. At 6 months, we repeated her coronary calcium score. It had dropped to 368. Her cardiologist was skeptical. He said, calcium scores do not go down. They just do not. At 18 months, her score was 322. Her A1C had dropped from 7.8 to 7.1. Her cardiologist finally admitted something was working. Now, I want to be careful here. Margaret also made dietary changes and walked daily. K2 was not the only factor, but the research strongly suggests it played a significant role in reversing calcification. Here is the mechanism in more detail. K2 activates two proteins. Original MAPR's matrix GLA protein, which prevents calcium from the tissues, and osteocalcin. Think of K2 as the foreman on a construction site. Without the foreman, workers dump materials wherever. With the foreman, everything goes exactly where it should. The best food source by far is natto, a Japanese fermented soybean dish. One serving provides about 1,000 micrograms. But most Western palates struggle with natto. It is sticky, smells strong, and has an acquired taste. Hard cheeses like Gouda and Brie provide 75 to 80 micrograms per serving. Egg yolks from pasture-raised chickens provide about 32 micrograms per yolk. For supplementation, the therapeutic dose is 90 to 180 micrograms of MK7 daily. Take it with your fattiest meal. MK7 stays active in your bloodstream for up to 72 hours, so once daily dosing works well. Here is the critical warning. If you take blood thinners like warfarin, you need to talk to your doctor before starting K2. It can interfere with how your medication works. Do not stop your blood thinner. Do not add K2 without guidance. This interaction is serious. For everyone else, K2 has an excellent safety profile with virtually no upper limit established in research. All right, let me take a moment here. We have covered a lot of information today. 3 vitamins, multiple studies, real patient stories. It might feel overwhelming, but here is what I need you to understand. You are not powerless. You are not too late. And you are definitely not alone in this. The fact that you watched this far tells me something important about you. You care about your health. You are not just accepting that is just diabetes as the final answer. That mindset is more powerful than any supplement. Remember Dorothy, the librarian from Maine who dropped her A1C from 8.2 to 7.4? I talked to her last month. She is hiking with her daughter now. She told me she thought those days were behind her. Remember Richard, who had not slept through the night in 4 years? He sent me a photo last week of his grandkids at a soccer game. He said, I can actually enjoy watching them play now instead of focusing on my burning feet. These are not miracles. This is what happens when you give your body what it needs to function properly. The science is clear. Vitamin K2, Benfotiamine, and vitamin D3 address deficiencies that affect the majority of diabetics. Deficiencies that standard medical care often misses entirely. You do not need to start all 3 at once. That is actually not what I recommend. Week 1, start with vitamin D3. It is the most universally deficient and the easiest to take. 2,000 international units with breakfast. Get your levels tested if you can. Week 3, add vitamin K2. 180 micrograms of MK7 with dinner. This pairs perfectly with D3 and ensures calcium goes where it should. Week 5, if you have neuropathy symptoms, add benfotiamine, 300 milligrams with lunch. Give it at least 6 weeks before judging results. Small steps taken consistently lead to big changes. And you just took a big step by watching this video. If this information opened your eyes, hit that subscribe button. Every week, I break down the latest research so you do not have to wade through medical journals yourself. Real science, real results, no fluff. Next week, I am covering the one breakfast mistake that spikes blood sugar for hours and the simple swap that fixes it. You will want to catch that one. Drop a comment telling me which of these 3 vitamins surprised you most. Was it the K2 heart protection, the benfotiamine nerve benefits, the D3 insulin connection? I read every single comment, and your questions often inspire future videos. And if you are already taking any of these, share your experience with our community. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Take care of yourself. You deserve it. I will see you in the next one. Arier Horifer.